Welcome to Monarchist Minute, Royalist news and discussion out of the good old US of A. Today, as we are recording
The
this,
bot isn't
it is
here.
it looks
Yes,
like
it
it's
is.
here.
Yeah, the bot's
here.
there.
It's
Krieger's
here.
blind.
Yeah.
Click the audience button
No,
again.
Okay, well, now that this train has been thoroughly derailed and there are no survivors,
Of course you would
thanks
say
to bad point work, I mean Krieger. Yeah, it's the 14th of July, right? Which means that for the French, it is a day when every Frenchman should collectively realize we done messed up. It is Bastille Day, where a bunch of angry women stormed a prison and butchered a whole bunch of people, and then the revolution got progressively worse and worse and worse, and
We'll continue on that
yeah. So, in other words, we move from the 4th of July, which is uh, it's a civic day. It's not a holiday, right? But it's a civic day where monarchists can kind of debate whether or not it's okay to celebrate it. Then we move to Bastille Day, not 10 days later, and then we're all like, no, this was not the good. No, anyone who says it is will be found guilty and sentenced to die by not guillotine. Or the National Barber, as it was called, or
Razor,
the National Razor, possibly both.
National Razor.
Yeah, well, either way, it would be a close shave. So who has totally original thoughts that no monarchist has ever thought before about Bastille Day?
One of
I
my
mean,
favorite anecdotes about Bastille Day is how the leaders of the revolution basically lied to the mob that they were storing political prisoners there. And there was only like 4 people actually in there, and 2 of which were charged with murder. And the entire real reason they stormed the Bastille is because they wanted to steal all the cannons in the armory and all the powder and weapons.
What? A bunch of Masons lie to the people? Oh, who could have foreseen?
Oh,
it's
no.
almost as if
it.
it's almost as if the blatant populism was almost a facade to gain other more elitist needs. I don't know. Another thing, by the way, on the topic of the Bastille, that really angers me is that basically basically people knew it was about to happen a few days in advance. And due to this, there was one prisoner that was removed from the Bastille and taken somewhere else. But after the Bastille was raided, they couldn't effectively keep him there, and they couldn't effectively keep him where they had him, so they had to release him. And this prisoner was the most upstanding French revolutionary you've ever met, the Marquis de Sade. Have you ever heard of the Marquis de Sade, gentlemen? And if you have, don't say it.
Oh, okay.
No?
I'll tell you about the Marquis de Sade. Firstly, Sade is spelled S-A-D-E, and the Marquis de Sade has the unique distinction of having a term named after him, sadism. He wrote a couple of very not safe for life books about very not safe for work topics against not very 18-year-old people. And lots of other horrible things like that. I think his magnum opus, if you could even call it that, was called like 40 Days in Sodom or something, to give you an idea. So, not a good guy. Not a good guy, and the revolution caused him to be freed.
It was 120 Days of Sodom, actually.
120 Days of Sodom, thank you. But, yeah. And he was freed due to this, and allowed to continue doing things in Paris and France abroad, which I don't think is a good thing. I mean, controversial opinion here, but I don't think that the Marquis de Sade was a good person.
He wasn't,
And
but I don't know if you know. But there was actually a movie based on the book. It was transposed from 18th century France to the last days of Mussolini's regime in the Republic of Salo. And it's easily one of the most controversial films ever made, and generally viewed as not safe for life.
Yeah. So that's basic. That's what what did Bastille Day accomplish? They stole cannons from the Royal Armory and guns, and they freed one of the most horrific men to ever live.
And so begins the Republic's long tradition of enabling pedophiles.
Yeah, And I mean,
Yeah,
Okay,
like the monarchy
Whoa,
would be much
whoa.
better.
it's
well,
almost as if.
we are a few minutes in and we're already demonetized.
Yeah,
I
no, demonetized, bro.
I do
we
not
won't
particularly.
even
Then we don't
monetize
get
to
any
begin
cookies,
with.
Chuck.
No,
YouTube
when
has
we get
no power
monetized, we're
over it.
immediately getting demonetized because of this, bro.
Well,
Anyway,
But on another note, the thing that always confused me about Bastille Day is how basically a bunch of impoverished peasants, or I don't know what exactly to consider the citizens of Paris. Were they peasants? Were they free? I don't know. I'm not back
I
there
would
to
say
understand the social con.
subjects.
A peasant. I think it's pretty safe to assume a
The point
peasant in
is, how
general
did a
would not
bunch of
live in a
basically
city as big as
ragamuffins
Paris.
with
gentlemen, you're speaking over each other.
But basically, my point is, how did a bunch of ragamuffins with run-down muskets manage to seize a literal fortress?
I can tell you,
Feminism.
the way they were able to take the fortress was because they had orders from the commander of the Bastille and the guy in charge of all the troops there not to fire on the mob and to try and block them, but if they got through, they got through. And this commander explicitly said not to kill a single person there, as to not anger the city of Paris or all of France and invoke a revolution. And the guards did as he said. Not a single person on the revolutionary side was killed during the storming of the Bastille. And would you like to know what gratitudes the peasants gave to this commander for
Didn't they
his
slaughter 'em
sparing their
all?
lives? They chopped his head off. They chopped
Yep.
his head off, put it on a pike, and paraded it around the palace of Versailles.
National
in
risk.
fairness, if the guillotine had been invented, it probably would have been a slightly more humane execution for him.
It wasn't. They did this with axes that they had on hand.
Yeah, no, I'm saying the guillotine wasn't invented yet. I don't think.
Yeah, so it wasn't a good thing. It was a bunch of violent peasants getting very angry because they were stirred up by other factors and proceeded to slaughter someone who had directly spared their lives when they could have held out in the fortress with just like 5 guards and a couple of muskets.
You know,
like
it
being
kind of reminds me sort of the Berkeley riots back in like 2016, 2017, where the police were basically told not to intervene and just let the conservative and progressive rioters just duke it out in the streets.
What? Can we talk about the guy with the bike lock?
Maybe
Oh.
Yeah,
later.
the bike lock guy. Oh,
Yeah,
the bike
guy.
lock
Do you guys
guy.
not know about bike lock guy?
They don't know about the
This
bike
is
lock guy?
bringing back sweet, sweet memories from a much simpler time.
Yeah, no. Basically,
Yeah,
there
when
was
an
this guy
orange
who
man
beat
became
the-
president.
There was this guy who like stole a bike lock during these riots, right? And then
I don't think
beat
he stole
the
it. I think it was just
No,
his.
No, he
bike.
stole it. He stole
He
it.
stole it.
We stole
He
it.
stole the bike lock and started with a bike lock. Not saying that's a good or bad thing, but like, okay.
It is
depending
an
on
No,
what
entertaining
side of the
thing.
political spectrum was he on?
He was an
That guy was
Antifa guy.
Oh,
Like,
then yeah,
like,
I'm completely
like
unsurprised.
stealing the bike lock should have been a big enough hint that he probably wasn't on the conservative side. But yeah,
Oh,
no.
relating
Then
somehow
4chan spent months tracking this guy down, and they found out he was a substitute,
Yeah, they
and he's
found
kind
out
of
he was a
vanished since
or
then.
something. Yeah.
Yeah,
well
he was a
relating
substitute, then
He's
he
in jail now.
vanished.
That's why he's gone.
He was a professor in
Oh, he was
ethics,
eventually caught.
of
Oh, he was
all
caught?
things.
Oh, he was on
Yeah,
the
no,
run.
they caught him. Like,
gentlemen. But on that topic of fun little Antifa protesters, I just want to remind y'all of the fact that when being chased by multiple Antifa protesters and defending himself, Kyle Rittenhouse scored 2 out of 3 being pedophiles, which is just a curious ratio, if you ask me.
High score.
oh, Tesla makes vitamins.
High score.
Because 2 out
Wow,
of
William.
3
We are
ain't
never,
bad.
getting monetized.
Never.
We were never monetized.
We are
in the
never going to
first
see.
place, Krieger.
That's what I was saying. We're never going to get monetized at this rate. We are never
Either
going
way.
to see cash flow into this organization, but I digress.
They
Anyways,
can't
let's go back to
do it.
France.
Guys,
Let's
Let's
guys,
go back
down
to
to
France
the
about
Use
200
that,
years
it'll
ago.
work.
guys, quit talking over each other, please.
Back to France.
Back to France.
Bastille Day is one of those days. And, controversial opinion here, but without the Bastille, we would never see Napoleon. And speaking of Napoleon, the new Napoleon movie is coming out. I'm hearing it's going to be really good.
I'm hoping
Make
it
a
is.
movie about a real monarch before you
Napoleon
make one
seems
about
like a really
Shorty.
neat character. Yeah,
I mean,
Brother
since
wasn't even
Monarch by
short.
right of
As a literally
conquest
neat character.
is gonna be serious.
No.
Monarch by right of conquest, yeah.
Yeah, he was king of France. Or
No, he was
mean,
not. He
I
was
have
a
a
He was
weird-
l'empereur.
I have a weird position where Napoleon is kind of equivalent to Caesar, where he's in that gray area between dictator and monarch.
No,
It was good.
no.
And then we get to
Napoleon and
Napoleon
Caesar are
III,
both
who
very
is-
similar, but Napoleon accomplished what Caesar never could. He became a monarch.
Yeah, yeah. I love how
He also
revolution
succeeded.
quickly became counter-revolution. That's interesting.
He also succeeded in defeating Germany multiple times. So,
Specifically Prussia, several times.
yeah. Oh,
More
dude, a lot.
specifically, HRE.
Well, not HRE. Prussia wasn't HRE. They were two separate
Prussia
entities.
was basically Prussia basically was the goat pretending the HRE, like protecting the HRE.
Yeah, no, the HRE actually got dissolved.
Kind of gave up.
The
after a
HRE did
while.
get dissolved. They got dissolved because of the Napoleonic. Well, yeah, the Napoleonic Wars.
Specifically because of the
Yeah,
Napoleonic.
because
It was
what
like
was it
second or
during the
third war of
second?
the Confederation.
Yeah,
Weren't they
I think it was the
already
second
on
war
their
of the
deathbed
coalition.
at this point?
You know,
Not really.
part of me wonders
That's the subject of debate.
that if Napoleon decided to winter it out in Moscow, if maybe he could have managed to beat Russia in the spring, or if the campaign
No.
was completely
He was running
doomed.
out of supplies.
They burned
Listen.
Moscow to the.
They burned Moscow. They had burned all the fields. There's some Napoleon's supply trains were already overextended and barely sustaining the army.
So if he would have
He-
stayed, he would
the
have
re-
guaranteed himself death, basically.
Yeah,
Yep.
the retreat from Moscow with all the casualties that happened. That was the best scenario for Napoleon.
Yeah, no, honestly.
Yeah.
Encirclement, dog. Could have been.
Well, on the topic on that topic of later French history post Napoleon, and I think this is a controversial topic amongst monarchists here and sometimes in France. I'm not exactly a fan of the Bourbon monarchies that came afterwards, like the July monarchy. They just weren't good.
The Bourbon Restoration was bad. I'm of
I
the
don't-
opinion that the July monarchy is the only reason the
don't know
Bourbons
enough
even
about
still had a throne after Charles X.
I don't know enough about the Bourbon Restoration to have an opinion on it, honestly.
It was pretty mid. Louis
Gave us
XVIII
a
was
pretty okay
he was a
music.
fat guy on the throne.
I think.
I know
Well,
that's
when
where
you're-
the controversy between the Legitimists and Orleanists come from, because at some point the Orleans branched over to the Bourbons and made a more liberal constitutional monarchy that ended up not lasting very long and got yeeted out for the Second Republic.
That was
Yeah,
because and then there was the one that got. I think it might have been the same one that got thrown out because they didn't agree on the flag.
No,
Yeah,
that
you know,
was
I mean-
I think that
the
was
Count of
the
Chambord.
Orleans.
There were
the
so many.
no.
Hold on,
Let me
everybody.
explain.
Here's what I gotta say about the Orleanist. And I'll say something about the flag, because everyone really likes to hate the guy who rejected the flag. But the Orleanist, I don't know about the current guy, how he is on the base to liberal spectrum, but no, you don't create a more liberal monarchy. You don't compromise with any sort of parliament. We learned one thing from Charles I is that parliaments, if they are going to exist at all, should be told to sit down, shut up, never given any sort of real power. No, disband them all. Use the buildings for meetings of the International Congress of Barbers or something. Destroy them all.
You know,
Listen,
if
once
I
again.
if I had a quarter for every time a country in the 20th century got overthrown or annexed because they spent more time making a flag than actually running their country, I would have 2 quarters, which isn't a lot. It's strange that it happened twice.
Well, no, I mean, here's the thing with the flag.
But
Here's the thing with the flag. Okay, the guy didn't want to accept he made it clear that he was not going to accept the tricolor, and everyone says, Oh, well, it's just a flag. Well, you have to understand, what does that flag symbolize? Okay, that flag symbolizes, at least one interpretation I've heard, is that the red and the blue were the flag of Paris and are supposed to represent the people beating the monarchy into submission. If that is
Well,
the flag, then no.
So
Okay.
here's
I mean,
here's the thing. Here's the thing, Chuck. I agree
and-
with the sentiment of that. In fact, I actually agree with your whole point. However, I will continue to hate on that guy because he didn't have the strength to back up his own decision. If you end up getting overthrown over a flag decision, I don't think you're strong enough to rule in the first place.
Well, he
well,
didn't get
he never even
overthrown.
got
They were
overthrown.
going.
He never like they were. Because here's the thing. This all happens after the Franco-Prussian War. Napoleon III, he's just recently been ousted. The various communes have been destroyed, and like they're talking about, hey, maybe we'll give the monarchy a third go. They invite the Count of Chambord, the good king. You know, this guy has to have at least an idea that the country's unstable and it needs a leader. But here's where my issue with him comes. Whether or not the tricolor symbolizing, like the overthrowing the king and whatnot. Whether or not he had like that's fine, a legitimate reason to not want the tricolor. But he should have been pragmatic and had enough foresight to think to himself that, if anything, he could always push for the flag to be changed at a later date and focus on, getting the country back. But no, he whined about the flag, and then he screwed up the last chance for France to become a monarchy again. So, yeah, I will clown on him forever. And
Well,
yeah,
that's just
absolute
it.
clown.
If you're saying the last chance France out of becoming the monarchy, I'm guessing that already makes clear your stance on Napoleon III, does it?
Napoleon III was a cool guy. He was a good ruler for France.
He was definitely, yeah, he was one
he
of France's
gets
presidents.
he gets clowned on for leading the army during the Franco-Prussian War, but to be fair to him, well, first of all, he was leading his troops like a proper monarch, and second of all, they were fighting Prussia. Prussia, they been very dominant over the last 10
Prussian
years.
military for like the past 2 centuries at that point was just on another level than any other military.
Gonna be real. When it comes to Napoleon III and his military usage during the Franco-Prussian War, I think, honestly, he was doing the same thing the other people in Europe were doing at the time, which was scheming. And he'd been scheming for a while, and he wanted a war against Prussia just as much as the Prussians wanted war against him. That's the thing, firstly. However, he spent so much time plotting against the Prussians and how to do war on them that he kind of forgot the whole get your military good thing, and his military basically did nothing for years. So he could have won.
Meanwhile, Prussia had basically been sitting on the pile of rage and basically their own book of grudges left over from the Napoleonic War, and just thinking about how in every single way they were going to get back at the French for that.
Well, and here's the other thing. The Prussian army had
not
spent the past 2 decades doing war on their neighbors, like in the war against Denmark for Schleswig-Holstein or the war against Austria.
Also justified.
Yeah, no, but like the whole Prussia had been perfecting their military might, and the Franco-Prussian War was the culmination of that military and strategic power that Prussia had. And I think the German Empire was close to being a good successor to it, but it was just without. I always agree with the historical analysis that Otto von Bismarck made only one mistake. He couldn't plan for Prussia without him. He couldn't plan a German empire without him. He couldn't account for the faults of others. He would always just think, oh, I'll be there to fix it. And so he didn't put those safeguards in place.
I think the biggest thing that doomed the German Empire was Wilhelm II's horrific temper. Because
So-
basically that's what doomed any chance of having a good relationship with Britain, because he had so many basically personal issues with Britain and the British Empire from childhood insecurities.
Yeah,
so
I
he
Also,
picked a fight with what
the
should have
food of
been his
earth?
natural ally against the French.
I will agree on the fact that Wilhelm had a temper, but I don't think that it was the sole cause or even the main cause of the German loss during World War One. I think that it's overblown, and the kind of belief that Wilhelm was always a very angry man, always screaming at people, is a byproduct of two things. Firstly, just general World War One propaganda of like the angry, apish Hun, right? And also of later German leaders, mustache, who would who were very well known for their angry temper. So I think that it wasn't even the main cause of Germany's loss. I think the main reason for Germany's loss was just their simple lack of strategic thought from their generals. Helmut von Moltke, the younger, didn't plan like his uncle. He didn't think like his uncle.
And I know that the British blockade also did a very severe number on Germany's war fighting capabilities, which also goes back into what we were talking about a while ago, several episodes ago, about why Germany lost the Second World War, is that Germany doesn't have the economic capacity to fight such a war of scale. And that's why so much of Germany's planning in the past has been for fast, quick fights and rapid movement and wars quickly, because prolonged conflict is not something they're capable of doing.
Yeah, they also got too much into the habit of close range fighting, which wasn't their forte. Their forte was long range artillery destruction.
Boom, boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom.
Yeah.
But yeah, something else that people always say like, oh, but if only Frederick III lived longer, there wouldn't have been Wilhelm II ruining everything on the diplomatic scale. From what I've read, and I've done most of this, a while ago, back when I was going back over Imperial Germany World War One. So take it with a grain of salt. From what I know of Frederick III himself,
Germany could have won if America
he
didn't.
wouldn't have it's not like had he not died 99 days into his reign, if he had actually had a proper reign, like he would have magically had an magical friendship with Britain and France and everyone. No, he was just as, if not worse, than Wilhelm II in regards to foreign affairs.
The big thing that would have happened if Frederick III had reigned longer was that the Prussian monarchy and the German Empire would have most likely gone the way of Britain, because he would have liberalized the state and they would have become
No, not even. That's actually from my own research. That's And again, this was a while ago, so it's not super fresh on me. But it's not. It's overblown. The thing like he was like liberal than his son or father. He was a bit more liberal when he also wasn't a super liberal. Like
And well, yeah, and
he
generally
had
on the
some
topic
very
of
interesting views on like power between like the Kaiser and like his parliament, like and like as well as between Prussia and the other member states of the German Empire. I think he viewed as like the other monarchs shouldn't even be monarchs, that they were the subjects of Prussia or something. Again, this was a while ago, so take it with a grain of salt.
the other main screw up, in my opinion, was just like going through Belgium. Like that could have the wall that they had, like the plan that they had put up in France to try and prevent the German invasion. Like it would have still been probably toppled by the Germans, but they had to go through Belgium, which got the British into it, and the British were the main kind of Western Front attacker. The French were not putting up that much of a fight.
Screwed over, dude.
Yeah.
I will give the French where the French deserve credit. They did
They don't
perfect the
deserve
tank
credit.
during World War One.
They don't deserve credit. That's the thing.
They made
I mean,
they made
Britain
the
had
tank.
Tank
big,
were the only
bulky,
thing they did.
basically boat on tank treads, whereas France was like, no, we're gonna build something that's actually mobile and practical.
But a
Nah,
boat on tank
sorry.
I'm gonna say that the French perfected the tank. They got
Sorry,
the
bro.
foundation of the tank, but
Y'all are
the
sleeping.
World War I French tanks were not perfect.
Well, for
Y'all-
World War One standards, it was pretty good.
Y'all are sleeping on the A7V, in my opinion.
Exactly. Y'all sleep on the A7V. The A7V
I've given
might
up. I
be
don't even
limit.
know what y'all are talking about anymore.
The A7V is the goofy German tank from World War One, the one that looks like a
Goofy.
mousetrap.
Okay,
Yeah, the
Oh,
one that has
that
all the
one.
guns all around it.
nice.
It was literally the meme of like the walking turtle with guns everywhere. Like that's what it was. It was
Isn't,
great.
if I remember
that.
correctly,
That's
that's where the word panzer is derived from. It's derived from the German term for turtle shell.
Yeah,
Well, Panzer
so
is, or I think it's armor in German. And for anyone who speaks German, feel free to correct in the comments. But
yeah,
like,
make fun of us for our poor German.
yeah, because like German Panzer ship is like armored ship in
Krieger.
literal translation.
Yeah.
Hi.
Krieger said a no
Now
word
we're
with it.
never
No, he
gonna
didn't.
get
He said
cookies.
He said
It's
Schiff.
so over.
We're
Well,
never
it was
gonna get
already
cookies
Joe
now.
over. You guys done messed up twice already.
What do we say? Or what did Krieger say? Sorry.
I can't remember if
didn't-
it was Krieger the first time, but it was Joe the second.
Joe.
Didn't say
Listen,
squat.
I will say it over and over. I am innocent. I'm always friend, and y'all were gonna get your
No, you're
due.
not. No, you're not. I just heard you say that, dude.
You
Like,
guys
bro.
know I
I
don't
will.
swear IRL. It's only typing what I
Joe.
do.
Unbelievable, Joe.
I
Ow.
didn't say squat.
Panzer ship,
It would
yeah.
be Edgar in the room.
No, it
Who's
was
the
you.
Edgar older than you,
Call
dude?
me Edgar again, and I will show you why our crime rate is so high.
Alright,
Gentlemen,
wait,
gentlemen,
what,
gentlemen,
what's
gentlemen.
the deal with calling him Edgar?
Okay, an
It's
Edgar. Very quickly, I'll send you a photo
discriminatory
later,
term,
Sky.
if you will.
No, it's not
Alright.
discriminatory. There are just these
Against
modern
certain like
Constantine,
against a genre of people.
Constantine, if you will. Edgars are Gen Z Hispanic American children and heavy influence on the American. Most of them are no sabo kids, meaning they don't speak Spanish, and except for their catchphrase "No quema, cuh," and they basically just walk around with their stupid haircuts and their pants sagging low, saying stupid stuff and pretending to be cartel or whatever.
So what does their saying mean?
That means it doesn't burn, cousin.
What is that even
It
supposed
doesn't.
to mean?
It doesn't mean anything really.
Not fire is what.
It's just a catchphrase. It's just a catchphrase.
So
Like
basically, ghetto Hispanics is what I'm getting.
Yeah, pretty
wanna
much.
be
Yeah.
ghetto
Yeah,
Hispanic.
wannabe
Yeah.
Joe is pretty
They've
accurate.
basically
honestly.
taken over Knott's Berry Farm, which is Cedar Point, but in California.
Yeah, but who wants to go
Here,
to California?
Sky, I'm gonna ping you in the chat there. As for Edgars, they annoy us heavily, to say the least.
Well, I'm
And
annoyed by ghetto people in general, so
that's true. That's a good
Wow,
point.
that seems like a racially charged comment, Sky.
Shush,
I'm
Constantine.
kidding.
no, in my town there are
kidding.
plenty of ghetto white people. It has nothing to do with
That's
race.
okay. I've got fake ghetto white people, which is arguably worse.
They're called white
Yeah.
I
trash,
swear,
William.
if we
Get it
ever
right.
become a proper organization, we're scrubbing this episode off the face of the internet.
No, we're not. We're just having a good time.
No, we're just
We're
screwing around. We're being
having a
silly. We're
good
being goofy.
time. Yes,
Remember when
we're
this episode
having
was
a
about
good
Bastille Day?
time.
Gentlemen, please stop talking over each other.
Don't
When
sing
this
And
and
stop
episode was
sing. We
about
might get
singing.
copyright.
Yeah. Anyway, what else were we going to talk about? Are there any big news stories we wanted to cover? So we can laugh at the U.S. government?
we can talk about
The crack pipe investigation's getting called off.
Oh, yes.
They're
Brad,
calling
remember
off
what
the
you
crack
mentioned about Biden
investigation.
last night?
Oh, wait, sorry, say that again, Constantine?
Remember what you mentioned about Biden last night sending people to Ukraine? Well, not Ukraine, but Europe.
So, yeah, basically, so apparently this seems to be a regular thing, but it's interesting that there was a whole presidential thing about it this year. Basically, Biden has authorized the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security to send 3,000 soldiers to Europe. For what reason, I'm not quite sure. Apparently, it's just regular training drills, but That's kind of what they said when they were sending them to Vietnam. So, you know, and
Okay,
we
guys.
love Vietnam.
Thankfully for me, I have ADHD, so I cannot be drafted. It's a medical thing too. So like,
I wonder if I could get out of the draft with my autism, or if I'm too high.
actually, no.
I mean,
you
I
can't.
probably will.
I think the government likes to hand rifles to mentally
No,
ill people all the time.
No, hold on a moment. The people who are fit for military service get given a gun and sent outwards to the enemy front, and people with mental illness are given a gun and sent to the home front.
Oh no!
It's all yours, buddy.
CIA.
Okay,
It's all
now
yours,
this
buddy.
podcast-
No,
if
the
this
thing is, it's always
podcast
Captain
officially
Pacific.
glows any more from this point, it could be classified as nuclear waste.
Now,
What did
here's
you
the thing, right? They always give people the gun, but the specific attachments that the ATF wants got rid of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true.
Now,
Well, yeah, by ATF I mean dog killers, just so you know.
yeah, no, I mean here's my two unironic takes. I would not be surprised in the slightest that at least some mass shooters were radicalized by the government or whatnot. And I would also not be surprised because let's be honest, the US apparently there was like this guy at an Air Force base and he was picking up like weird signals and he and turns out these were like secret communiques, but the base commander's like, no, it's aliens, keep observing them for us, and eventually this poor guy went insane because he
It's a numbers
legitimately
station.
thought it was aliens or something. So I would not be surprised in the slightest that the government was doing that. My second
Clearly-
conspiracy,
Okay.
huh?
I was gonna say, clearly you guys have never played Call of Duty Black Ops. Because clearly it's a numbers station. Let's
Gentlemen.
get it right.
Yes.
Clearly.
Gentlemen, I have found a news story that we may comment on.
Oh boy, here we go.
So, in the great and totally not degenerate city of Houston, rates of syphilis have increased by 128%.
Wait,
Whoa.
syphilis, like the one, like the original STD.
Yes, the one that gives you the
French
funny
disease.
brain things.
A
The
French
one-
disease.
The one that makes you have. It's the one that killed Capone.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
pretty
here's
sure chlamydia is the original STD because people have been talking about the clap since time immemorial.
well, okay, here's what I gotta say to
Collab,
the people of the world. No one has ever died of being a virgin disease. Like, last I checked, this
Counterpoint.
wasn't a medical problem.
Counterpoint.
I
Isaac Newton,
mean,
he was just lonely. He died a virgin. He was lonely.
Anyway,
Maybe
comedies.
God struck him down for being an Anglican.
Comedy aside, Constantine, you shouldn't be having 128% spikes in syphilis in your city unless there's something wrong with your city.
Poor people is what.
Because
Okay,
I
I'm
mean,
pretty sure that syphilis treatment has been around for,
I mean, yeah,
for like 100 years now.
it's curable with antibiotics.
You could literally get penicillin and do that, dude.
That's not what I'm
Like-
complaining about. I'm complaining about the fact that this
Yeah.
happened in the
I
first
mean,
place.
yeah, it still
no, that
shouldn't
is the
happen.
problem.
And dear viewers, if this keeps happening, I'm not even going to worry about Charles York pushing his banning of contraception because obviously people aren't using it anyways.
exactly. Come on, Will, just join the dark side. I mean, the light side.
He
Yeah, join the light
confessed,
side of the
ladies and
contraception.
I
gentlemen,
mean,
he
if
has
people,
confessed.
I mean,
He has
Guys,
confessed.
as much as
Guys.
I encourage abstinence, if people aren't going to have safe sex anyways, then why do we even bother?
Yeah, just ban contraceptives. It will either okay. So people will say, well, if we ban contraceptives, people are going to keep doing it anyways. Yeah, but that's like saying if we ban abortion, people are going to keep doing it anyways. Less people are going to do it. Like,
Or they're going to do it and suffer horrible, horrible consequences.
as we
Which
all
is why
deserve
it
to
should
when
be
we sin.
legal, so that they don't have to die with clothes.
Hard-
You have
hard
been
disagree.
found unbased and sentenced to prison.
Some of you,
You
have
have been
No.
sentenced to
You
cringe.
have-
You know, you wouldn't have to go
Things
look.
unbased.
You wouldn't have to go. You wouldn't have to go looking for a hobo down the street to use a dirty, rusty clothes hanger if there was a support for young families who
This
maybe did a bad and all of a sudden they've got a baby now to worry about. Maybe if there was support from I don't know, maybe your state or hell or the national government. Maybe just maybe they wouldn't have to
Family
worry about the
subsidiaries.
dirty.
Yeah,
I'm just
as
saying.
actually,
as for that, I will kind of remember there was this satire video, and this was right after Roe v. Wade was overturned, and this relates. Basically, it's these women talking about how horrible it is that abortion's been banned, and then they start talking about the horrible things they'll have to do in response. They're going to have to start screening their partners to see if they're safe to have sex with. They're going to have contracts with the people that they have sex with, that if they have a baby, they'll stay together and they'll financially support each other. And it
Here's the
was
catch. It's called marriage.
It's called
yeah,
a
no,
prenup.
that's what they
Right.
said. No, yeah,
Men
no.
in the chat here. Listen, prenups are important. Keep that in mind.
technically the church says you can't do prenups.
Oh, who
Wait,
cares
seriously,
what a
is that
bunch
is that
of
like an actual thing?
old geezers?
Because you shouldn't be getting
Joe,
divorced.
choose your next words very
Who
carefully.
cares
Yeah,
what a
Joe,
bunch
you
of
are
old
gonna wanna
geezers
think
would
Joe.
say?
Well, no one
Okay,
cares
you
what a
have
bunch
been
of young
found
liberals
guilty
would
of
say.
cringe.
Yeah, no one cares what a bunch of young liberals would say either. My
Yeah,
point,
No, the reason why prenups are bad is because the whole point of marriage is it's supposed to be till one of you drops dead. So having in case we get divorced, which you can't break up a validly contracted marriage, so the prenups are bad. Okay.
also on the
Now,
topic of it.
I-
Well, hold on, very quickly to address what Joe was saying. This isn't the opinion of, as you said, a bunch of old geezers. To quote, I forget who it was. I think it was either Fulton Sheen or it was a pope. I think it might have been Benedict. We cannot change divine law. We have not the authority. It is not
No, that was
our
Fulton Sheen.
choice.
That reminds me of
What?
that one South Park episode where the friar tried to where the friar in South Park tried to change Vatican law, and he just went through this
Yeah.
process
Anyway.
of it. Like, you're not gonna
I
change
am.
it.
Please never
Honestly,
mention South Park on the
Even
podcast
I,
again.
Yeah.
being generally speaking more liberal, I hate the idea of prenups because the idea of going into a marriage with
Thinking
a
it's gonna fail.
clause for it expecting it to fail just seems toxic.
Here's
Like,
the
why would
thing.
you go into a marriage with a legal clause should it fail? That's like
If
you're expecting it not to work out. Why would you do that?
Yeah, no. If you sign a prenup, that's basically a
here's
sentence
and
saying
and
you're not expecting it to.
and here's something that a lot of people ask. Well, how am I supposed to know that I'll be safe if this person decides to civilly divorce me? Well, here's a very simple way to test this if you're going to need a prenup, right? Do you think, like if you're thinking about marrying someone, do you put entire trust in them to not steal all your stuff and divorce you? If you do feel safe in that, then you don't need a prenup and you can get married. If you don't feel safe in that, you're not ready to marry them yet.
I was already say, if you don't feel safe trusting them, why would you ever put a ring on it in the first place?
Yeah.
To be fair, a prenup does prevent men from getting like half of their stuff stolen. Like, bro, listen, I was raised with divorced parents, right? Not saying that no fault divorce is a good thing, but my mom had a pretty good reason for divorcing my father. We'll leave it at that, okay? So like we were living in my grandparents' house when I was like 10 years old when this all happened, right? My dad, he was hardly around anyway. So, I mean, I guess you could say some of the memes I post are literally just fatherless behavior, but like, yeah, no, like no fault divorce bad, but my mom had a pretty good reason for it.
Well, I mean,
And
there's
that's a no
a
fault,
reason.
and that's not a no fault divorce.
It's not a no fault divorce.
No, I mean,
no fault divorce is bad, is what I'm saying.
no, I mean there's such a thing as a separation of bed if one spouse is lame, but the marriage itself.
Yeah.
Oh, the marriage itself is still there until either the husband or the wife dies. But speaking of moral issues, it is now time to unveil something to the public at large.
Well, wait,
Well-
can I make a comment on no fault divorce real quick?
So go ahead.
Assuming it's based.
I have very mixed feelings on the topic. Why I do think it incentivizes people to just break up their marriages instead of working out their issues as a healthy couple should. At the same time, my parents had a no fault divorce, or I think it's legally called a disillusionment in the state of Ohio because it was mutual amongst both parties. And quite frankly, it needed to happen.
That explains it. Ohio.
Because looking back at my parents' relationship, there was no way that was going to work out.
Yeah, my parents were married 20 years before they got divorced. It was like 17, 18 years. My mom's a saint for putting it up for. My mom is a saint for putting up with him as long as she did, though.
My
Love
parents
my
were
mom.
together for 11 years, and every single one of those years was a mistake, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
Jeez, man.
So, back
I
to what
mean-
Charles was saying.
Yeah. Well, due to I will say I did not come up with a name for this, so don't think this is my
Came
egotism.
up with this, so
Okay,
we
so
named it after you.
this was officially ratified on the 26th of June 2023 by the Council of the Monarchist America. Unlike a lot of the stuff that is just opinion, this is the legit business. This is what MOA actually stands for. Monarchists of America adopts a conservative Christian platform regarding social and cultural issues in the United States. Monarchists of America does not promote the beliefs of a specific Christian denomination, rather the social norms, customaries of the whole of historic Christendom since the beginning. End quote. Although jokes on everybody because the social norms, customaries of the whole of historic Christendom since the beginning is what the Catholic Church professes now. So.
Very goofy, Charles. Anyway,
Not
continue.
Apparently a purely Catholic statement, though.
Yeah, but anyways, MOA's now basically
Officially, what the majority of the people believe in.
yeah, MOA is now basically trad cath cry harder, but
It's not even trad cath. It's just trad Christian. Like it's
No, it's
social
pretty much
conservative Christian.
trad
As long as there's a
Again,
Protestant
inherently
sitting
Catholic
in the
statement.
chaplain's seat, it will not be tradcap.
You have to remember that our vice chancellor is also a Protestant too, so keep that in mind.
And
yeah, I'm
and
working on it though.
And the
No,
seat
you're
of vice
Oh,
chancellor has
it's a
been
work- it's
predominantly
working on it.
Protestant longer than
Everybody.
it's been by a Catholic.
Don't worry, Will. We'll fix you.
No, we won't. We can let him be wrong in peace.
Yes.
I'm just messing. I'm just messing with you all. Just joking
I
around.
mean, Methodists do share one thing in common with Catholics, and that we kind of, sort of believe in works are important as well as
Well, yeah,
faith.
we're sorry for it.
Because
Yeah.
Methodists believe that if you're not actually acting like a good Christian, then what are you doing?
Yeah, I think that on that topic, there's a general disconnect in what people understand versus what the Catholic faith teaches. So a lot of people will look at the Catholic faith and they will say, "Oh, well, the Catholic faith teaches that you need both faith and works to go into heaven," which is not true. Catholic faith does not teach that. The Catholic faith teaches that you need only faith to get into heaven. What it does teach is that faith is made up of two things: belief and works. Right? If you have works but not beliefs, that is called basically just being noble, right? Being someone who does good works but does not believe in Christ. They don't according to Catholic belief, they don't go to heaven. And then there are people who have belief but don't have the works. These are people who profess to be Christians but then do not act Christian. They don't either. You have to have both belief in Christ and works. You have to work for, because as was said in the book of James, for faith without works is dead. It is dead faith.
We
So
Wesleyan branches like Methodist and others still have kind of the Lutheran concept where the good tree will produce good fruit. So if you have faith, good fruit will come. But in the Methodist Church, we actually, in a way, I guess you could say, we expect it where if you don't produce good fruit, your salvation is not guaranteed.
That's
Even if
kind of
you
what
have
that's what the church is saying. Basically, someone who's actually faithful will have works, right?
Yeah, it's not just the Lutheran concept of, oh, it'll just happen. It's like, no, we expect it to happen. We expect you to follow through.
Yeah, and one who does not follow through does not have true faith, and thusly does not have faith. Stating
Which
you have
is
faith does not mean you have faith.
which is why Methodists are really, really, really big on charity work, and we are the guys who invented things like the Salvation Army and stuff like that.
I think it was Redeemed Zoomer who said that Methodists view themselves as the soldiers of God, and thusly have a lot of,
I think we
like, in the
watched the
Salvation,
same video.
and thusly in things like Salvation Army have a lot of military-esque references.
The army.
The only
Yeah.
downside of that channel is he's a freaking Calvinist.
Oh, not the
Calvinist.
Yeah, we don't talk about Calvinists here.
He's a Presbyterian, and I'm not gonna judge him so much because, you know, he actually does more work to explain the Calvinist doctrine, but as the saying goes, the Calvinists were right about predestination because they were predestined to have bad theology.
I like
Unreal.
the
that statement. I like that statement. That's funny.
I prefer the meme of predestination. You mean you're predestined to not have any? Can't finish it because of the podcast, but you know what I mean.
He
We
nails.
already broke the cookies, so you might as well.
Ye nay have wenches, for it was predestined by the Lord. Something along those lines.
You know what? That's actually pretty good phrasing. Not gonna lie.
That's my way around Charles's censorship.
Charles is literally 1984, by the way.
Literally 1984.
I'm
He's in
actually
your walls.
1985, the dictatorship in its heyday before it fell apart. But I don't know about that.
Backwards, not.
I said he's in your walls.
I am in your walls. In fact, as you speak, I am slowly plotting to get at you all.
Charles, you don't even know where I live.
Yes, he does.
I mean, close enough. I mean, I could just drive to your town and start randomly setting buildings on fire. I'm bound to hit you eventually.
Especially when Town Rumor says that there's Agent Orange under that chemical plant.
Oh, fun. Well, I mean, honestly, your state kind of deserves it. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, but that'll be the state, the next state over, most of Ottawa.
All of your states are like rectangles, bro. Like, what state? You can't tell the difference between Wyoming, which still doesn't exist, by the way, Colorado, Nebraska, and freaking the Dakotas.
I
The
remember
Dakotas
that
are not rectangles.
Wyoming doesn't exist because its population is within the 1 percentile of the entire human population.
No,
because
that's Finland.
Finland's the same way. Finland
Exactly.
may or may not exist because its population's within the 1 percentile.
Because that's
Is
a margin of error.
Well, personally, L?
I personally think that Finland is just a conspiracy theory between the Japanese and the Russians to get fishing rights in the Baltic.
Probably.
Unfortunately for you, I've actually met a couple Finns, so checkmate.
I actually have two.
Half
Yeah.
of my state population are mostly in the
Krieger, are you talking about Tool?
No.
Wait, have you met Tool?
Yes.
Okay, just
Who
checking.
are these people?
I've interacted with a Finnish person before.
It's
Tool is
other
from
people.
Finland.
Other people that are in
Tool
contact
is
with
from
the podcast.
Well, yeah, he's from the game server, Constantine. I like the quiet. Oh, you know which one I'm talking about. Anyway.
Yeah. Fifth Alabama represent.
Anyway.
Anyways.
What other topics?
What were we talking about in the first place?
We could talk about the Vendée, or the Vendée, or however you pronounce it.
I think we already did last week.
Did we?
I think
I don't remember.
We like touched it, but the Vendée itself deserves an entire episode to it. It's
probably
it deserves an episode where we all read at least the Wikipedia article.
Today is not this episode. This episode is not today, though. So, what other news could we talk about that would be funny?
Can we talk about how Dune has the potential to usher in a new era of monarchist media?
I'd be down for that.
I don't like Dune. I think Dune is lame.
Lame.
Ooh.
It is a bad movie.
Oh,
Oh,
wow,
that's
that's a lot.
fun. Another brand is getting canceled.
Who?
What?
Maybelline. They're a beauty brand
What for?
because their newest brand of lipstick was being or their newest bit of lipstick was being partnered with an influencer who has, how you say, a beard, like more beard than I have.
Okay, post a picture. I want to see if they have a better beard than I do.
They do. Like,
No,
I'm just sorry.
No, they don't.
I'm sorry to say this in advance,
Oh.
Constantine, but they do. Let me shrink
I
the
know
image
they have
down.
a better beard than I do. I can't grow facial hair to save my life.
Oh, they do. They do. You guys are gonna be like,
If my hair wasn't black and was orange, I'd look like a Scot.
My
yeah. Let
only
me.
goal in
Yeah,
life
You know,
is to get a
it's
Wendigo
been a
beard.
while
That's my
since
only
I've
goal right
actually
now.
seen your beard or your hair.
anyways, gentlemen, check the podcaster chat, and you can let me know your opinion on this.
His beard is better than mine.
What?
This
I
He has a
want
better beard
I
than
want
Joshua.
everyone involved fired and sent to jail.
His head is so bright. It's brighter than the current future of our country.
I need to see
Yeah.
what the answer looks like.
Well, to be fair, a matte black wall is brighter than the future of our country.
Yeah.
Okay, he does have a better beard. than
And what
Daniel.
is the point of the mustache? Could they not be bothered to grow out the mustache so it connects with the rest of the beard? Beard and a tiny mustache. Just grow out the mustache the rest of the way.
Maybe he likes
This will be
Not
posted.
everyone.
I don't
Not
know.
everyone is capable of growing
It's a crime against reasonable facial hair.
Your face
I
is
think
Not
this
crime
everyone
image,
is
against
able to grow
reasonable
a 40
facial hair.
centimeter mustache.
when we release this episode, we need to release an image along with the tweet to like inform them of what we're talking about, because this is
I
just
posted it in podcaster chat so those in the audience could see, but look at this.
Okay, and he probably likes it that way. I probably would.
It's
no.
ugly.
Well, listen, Joe. There are
Joe.
people who like the pedo stash. Not all look. Just because you like the look doesn't mean it's a good look. I'm sorry to say it, Joe.
Plus, for what's branded as a feminine facial products brand, having a full bearded guy on there is a curious choice.
I mean, he looks good. I'm not
I
gonna
mean, if you're
lie.
going to try and look like a woman, you need to at least try and shave the
It
beard.
looks good, alright. I'm not gonna lie.
It
No,
just
it
I
does
looks
wasn't.
not.
I mean,
wrong.
Thank you.
the bearded lady. I thought the bearded lady aesthetic died when P.T. Barnum's circus closed. I guess I was wrong.
This is a circus act of a world. We are truly in the
we
clown
live.
world.
We
Yeah.
truly live in a
This
clown world
podcast
full
is
of clowns.
definitely part of Clown World.
We're the only non-clowns I've seen in a while.
I am the only non-clown.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
I am the only beast. Oh, brands, why do you do what you do?
Capitalism.
Well, we've got
Yeah,
7
it's
more
time.
minutes till 9, actually. We could
It's-
read a Babylon Bee article or two for just comedy.
I think I'd rather call it.
All
I
right,
think calling it's fair.
sounds
Short
good.
episode this week.
What is this?
Huh?
I suppose it.
What are we talking about now? Oh no.
What's
Do
going
I
on?
want to know?
Anyway, let's wrap this up.
All right.
Are
Do
you?
the thing.
I forget, Charles. Are you doing the plug first, or am I doing prayer first?
Plug prayer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. plug.
Okay. So here is what we gotta do. If you would like to join us live on Monarchist Minute, then you can click that link
Link in the
In the
description below.
description below.
If you would like to follow us on Twitter, which is now more active than ever, you can follow us. Link
In the description.
In the
below.
description below.
If you would like to finally arrive in this server, yell at me to come up with a consistent script and not repeat the same point over at least twice,
Charles, I sent
then
you
you
a
can join us
script.
on our Discord. I'm saying this to the new people, Joe. This doesn't apply to existing members. Then you can join us on Discord.
Link in the description below.
William, if you please.
In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. On earth as it is in heaven, give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thy is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
All right. Until next week, may God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America and France.